After General Patraeus gave his testimony to Congress, I wrote a piece and sent it to several Connecticut newspapers. It's called Cut and Run. Now that General Patraeus and the administration have given their spin on their Iraq disaster, perhaps the public might be interested in a view from a member of the peace movement. After all, we did get it right about Iraq from the start. The question of whether the surge is working, of course, depends on your definition of working. If one means that the insurgents have pulled back in Baghdad because of the flood of new troops there, then there has been a measure of success. But of course that was predictable. Any guerrilla force does retreat in the face of an offensive. However, if by success, if by working, one means that things are settling down in Iraq and that the Iraqi government is bringing order and progress, then the surge is revealed as a gold-plated scam. The Iraqi government is a collection of collaborators, opportunists, and religious zealots. It is absolutely irrelevant for the country. It does nothing for the country, and the country has no interest in the Iraqi government. Actually, Iraq doesn't exist. The country formerly known as Iraq is a collection of city-states: Basra, Mosul, Kirkuk, Erbil, Baghdad, etc. They're each run by militias. And the U.S. Army is just the most powerful of the militias. Yes, the number of soldiers killed in the last couple months has gone down, but it's comparable to the number killed at this time last year. Has the number of Iraqi killed gone down? Who knows? How can anyone trust statistics given up by the Bush administration? The best estimate of Iraqis killed since the shock and awe invasion comes from the Johns Hopkins group that published its findings about a year ago in a British medical journal, The Lancet. They said, according to their best practices, their study, about 650,000 had died up until that time. Now, Tony Blair's scientific advisors looked at their methodology and found it indeed was best practice. But the Bush administration, when they're asked about this and when they even mention anything about Iraqi casualties, they say 30,000 dead. So how can you trust anything they say? One thing that is certain is that the flood of refugees has not abated. Nearly 3 million have fled the country, and another 3 million have been ethnically cleansed and forced to move into other areas of Iraq. Then there's that bit of news at the start of August, that there had been no water in Baghdad for 24 hours. No water because the electric grid cannot provide sufficient power to run water purification and pumping stations. No water when the temperature in Baghdad was 117 degrees. 4 years of reconstruction, and the people can't even get a drink of water. The war is lost. Our soldiers and the Iraqis have died in vain. Yet the Republicans and Democratic politicians won't stop the bleeding. They can't admit that they twisted the facts for over a decade and absurdly proclaimed that their one-time ally, Saddam, was now the new Hitler and a threat to the world. So they continue to cover their political behinds by cynically crying support the troops while they prepare to expand the war exponentially into Iran. On September 2nd, the Times of London said the United States was making plans to, quote, annihilate, unquote, the Iranian military with 1,200 attacks on every sizable Iranian military target in 3 days. This blitzkrieg is supposedly deserved because our generals claim the Iranians are supplying Iraqis with roadside bombs and because Iraq might have a secret nuclear program that might one day produce nuclear bombs, even though the CIA and the International Atomic Energy Agency, they have no evidence at all of this program. Senator Lieberman dreams up the sense of a Senate resolution accusing Iran of murder, and it passes 97-0. Then he gets $75 million added to the Foreign Operations Act to support gangs of Iranian dissidents, really thugs, in low-intensity warfare against their government. That shock and awe, too, against Iran could lead to a general uprising of Iraqi Shia against our troops in Iraq hasn't occurred to anyone. That an unprovoked attack on Iran would be the supreme war crime of aggression doesn't bother anyone. That the evisceration of another Muslim country would be a spectacular recruiting tool for Al-Qaeda seems to be below everyone's radar. Cut and run. Cut the Iraq-Iran war budget to zero and run the lobby-fattened, war-junkie, chicken hawk politicians out of town.